Hello and blessings, beautiful coven of the Witch Weaver. How are you today? Welcome to this week's video. The subject of this week's video is to focus on the items that you will need in order to create your very own charm bag. Firstly though, what is a charm bag? A charm bag is a magical curio used to attract a particular energy and or outcome. So, a charm bag is similar to a mojo bag or a gris-gris. There are many other cultures that create and work with such charmed bags, if you will, and we are not going to look at all of those cultures right now. What we are aiming to do is take what we have learned as far as theory goes in relation to earth magic, specifically crystals and stones, and use that skill in the creation of a mojo bag. It's time to get your hands dirty. It's time to practice a bit of witchcraft. So this week's video will look into exactly what you need to make a mojo, and next week's video will specifically focus on the petition that you are going to need to create in order to place inside your mojo and or charm bag. We are going to do items first. You've got a couple of weeks then to acquire the items because some could be specialty. You never know. I don't know what it is that you want to use, but we need to dedicate some time on understanding the ingredients that we choose, and then we need to spend some time working on our petition. And petition is something that does require a bit of time. It requires a bit of thought, and the paper itself requires a little preparation. So I thought we could split that up into two and go from there. So let's now go and have a look at what items you can choose to use to create your charm bag. Keep in mind that I have so many options here for you. You don't need all of these things, but you can have all of these things and more. What I have here are options, and I'm going to explain to you the whys and let you decide for yourself exactly what you feel like you need and what you don't need. So let's have a bit of a look. The most important thing that you will need is the bag. This is a velvet drawstring bag. However, you can make your own bag if you want, and you can use any color that you choose to use that directly aligns with your particular intention. Traditionally speaking, particularly in hoodoo culture, red was the color that was used. Red could have been used to create any kind of mojo bag. There are also cultures that use white with red thread. There are cultures that will insist that you make your own, you stitch it up yourself. There's so many ways that you can do this. There's even cultures that use a leather and leather bind. So there are many ways in which you can actually create your bag, be that a bought velvet bag. This one was gifted to me. I had it here, so I figure why not? It's red, which I love to work with. I am a bit traditional in that regard. I like to work with the power of red. I want my mojo, I want my charm to have that power and to have that intensity. And that's what will help to activate the ingredients inside it as well. So red is my preferred color. However, if you are working on, say, a love mojo or charm bag, then pink might be a good color. If you are working on financial prosperity, for instance, you could go with green or gold. If you are working on healing, you could go with blue or green, depending. And so it's really important to have a look at what color will directly align with your goal and or magical intention, and then make your decisions that way. That way you end up with exactly what you need to make a mojo that is going to work really well for you. Okay, so the red bag is the starting point, and for you it will be a different color entirely, or it will be red as well. So most important is a good bag to start off with of an appropriate color. Next, what you will need is paper. This paper will be used to create your petition. Traditional folk magical practices of the Yoruba variety would use brown paper with torn edges, which is very typical. You, however, could use colored paper. You could use plain white paper. It really depends on how you like to work, what you feel comfortable working with. okay? The one thing that I would recommend is that you choose a paper that you can then later on prepare. So don't make it so small that you only have a tiny little piece of paper to work with, because we're going to be preparing our petition paper, and this is something that you will see in next week's video. This item is optional. These are magical inks. Each magical ink is aligned to an intention. We have protection, we have enchantment, we have peace, we have, I think this is prosperity. Yes, we have prosperity, and we have something else there. I can't actually read it. Nevertheless, we have magical oils, and you can use these magical oils in which to create your petition. This is by no means absolutely necessary. You can, if you choose, use a plain pen. This is a bit of a Coletto pen with multiple colors, or a pen that really aligns with your intention. So if you're going to do prosperity magic for whatever reason, a gold pen is a really good idea. If you're doing healing or you're doing protection, healing would be blue, protection would be black, love, passion, war would be red. So use an ink that is suitable to the work that you are doing, or just go with whatever pen you have at your disposal, because the intention will hold there. The next item you will need is your choice of botanical. Now, I love to work with High John. This is very old school for me. It is something that comes from my family's practice. High John is considered an extraordinarily powerful root in which to work with. And so no matter what else I placed in a charm or mojo, I would have High John in there as well. So you can choose herbs that are in direct alignment with your goal, and you can use a power herb or botanical such as High John to really cement that. Another popular ingredient to use is dragon's blood. It is a resin. So dragon's blood resin is said to amplify the magic. And so you can add dragon's blood resin, you can add High John, and then you can add other botanicals that are in direct alignment with the goal and or intention that you are aiming towards. Next, you will need a selection of stones, of crystals that will help to attune to your intention. So choose your stones wisely. Be sure to have those stones ritually prepared, okay? And make sure that you are, in a position to be able to use these stones. So they can't be like massive. Like that's not something that you would put in a mojo. You would use something that's quite small like this, and quite little, and is pretty much the size of a charm, if you will. So that's something to consider. You can also work with things like shells, and you can work with charms. I would still add a charm to my charm bag, even if I added a selection of crystals, a single crystal or a selection of crystals, I would still then add a charm. Okay, it's at this point that I feel it is necessary to mention a little bit of homework that you will need to do. So when choosing the objects and the items that you are going to be placing in your charm bag, it's really good to work with a specific number. Now, there are some old folk magical numbers that are considered to be quite potent for this type of work. These are your odd numbers. 3, 5, 7, 9, and 13 are considered very powerful numbers. Now, your homework is to look into each one of those numbers and to determine which of those numbers more suits your goal, your intention for the creation of your charm. Once you have that number, that can give you a great indicator on how many items to place inside your charm bag, and something to consider, or how many times you would bless it, or how many times you would activate it, for instance. And so these are things to think about. A little magical numerology, old folk magic style, can be really, really handy to get to know early on in your witch's journey, because it can be quite a powerful piece of knowledge to acquire and to put to good use. There'll be many, many other opportunities to utilize that knowledge. So get to know those numbers. Oh, right. So we have charms,
We have shells, we have crystals. We can also have these power pieces, these intention charms, if you would like. This one here is for dreams, obviously, but it's just an example. This is an optional one. If you're doing some kind of money magic, then having a coin. But also, if you're not doing any kind of money magic, having a coin is considered a form of payment to the spirits that will help to activate your mojo. Okay, next we have needle and thread. So some needles, some thread. And the reason for this is to seal your charm and also to attach things to the outside. Now, I don't have a single charm on hand that I can use to show you, but you can have these tiny little charms that sort of relate to your intention that you can then sew onto the outside of your charm to give it a little oomph. It's important to use good quality charms, so a good sterling silver charm or even a semi-precious charm of some description, but something little and something that you can sew on the front. Now, I like to do this, but I seldom have charms in order to do this, so I have a little hack for you. The hack goes as such. I would take a paint pen, for instance. Let's say I had a gold or white paint pen, and I would draw a symbol that was symbolic of the intention. So let's just work with either love or money. So a love heart or a dollar sign, for instance, right? With an appropriate colored pen. And then what I would do is I would grab a needle and thread, and I would anoint the thread with a magical oil, and then I would embroider over the top of that. Really simply, nothing elaborate. And I would go over the entire design, stitching it. And each time I stitch it, I would embed the intention. And each time the needle goes through, it will carry through the oil and the anointed cotton. So it's a nice.
You are the type of person that is considering doing a little bit of sewing to really embed your intention, then you are going to find the process to be rather interesting. You can get yourself into a bit of a meditative mindset when you are sewing, and you would be setting your intentions over and over again. You're sewing it, you've got everything anointed, and you're setting the intentions. You would charm over it. You would say your magical words. You could say psalms. You could say spoken word charms, poetry, whatever it is that really aligned with your intention. That would be the time to do that. Okay, so it's an option for you to create ritual in the moment. And sewing has such a potent energy in and of itself. It's old school. It's old school to be able to sew something, really. Nobody sews anymore. Sewing is no longer included in magic unless you're a really crafty person. And so it's a great opportunity to get your sewing skills on, and it doesn't have to be elaborate, although it can be. If you're a cross stitcher, you can cross stitch, doing the same thing, anoint your thread. So these are options for you. If you do not have a charm to put on the outside, it's an option for you to then create something of meaning and of intention, something that you've put your hard work into, okay? And sewing and that type of focus that is required to sew, even the simplest of things, will create that intention. So consider it.
So that leaves a magical oil. This will be an oil that can anoint your petition, and it will also be used to feed your charm. So consider an oil that is in perfect alignment with what you want. Now, this oil here, which is a lodestone oil, is particularly important. Now, if you have lodestones that you can use in your charm, then by all means use it, because that is going to be best. I do not have lodestones, nor do I find it very easy to acquire lodestones. So instead, I have a lodestone oil. And that is something that I would use to anoint my petition and to anoint the outside of my charm bag. So do consider these options for yourself. If you have lodestones, that's great. If you don't, then look for a lodestone oil. And you can look at other types of oils. This is a road opener. That's a crown of success. That's a domination. Over here, I've got some blossom oils, some divine blossom. This is an Aphrodite oil, which would be really good for a love mojo. This is some shishi, which is really good emergency magical oil. Here's some come to me, which is great for calling things to you, particularly the lover. This is a spiritual barrier if you're going to do a protection charm. This is lucky hand if you're going to do a gambler's charm. You know, you have options.
I really do want you to consider the type of magical oils that you do use. And if for whatever reason you do not own or have in your collection any magical oils, then you can also use aromatherapy. At their core, essential oils, which are aromatherapy oils, are the essence of the botanical. Now, if you go into a magical herbal grimoire, if you go through the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, Culpeper's Herbal, whatever, you'll be able to see the magical properties of specific herbs. And then go through those herbs, find the herbs that align with the essential oils that you have, and then you will know the attributes of those essential oils and how to best utilize them. So there are options here. You also have time to make your own magical oils if that is something that you would like, or to acquire some magical oils that are in direct alignment to your goal.
So there you have it. You start off with the bag. I like the color red for all the reasons I have previously mentioned. But if you have a bag like this, which is a tea muslin bag, you can use it as well, or a bag of a completely different color that is in direct alignment with your intention. Bag, paper for writing petition, inks and or pen for writing your petition. You then have herbs, a selection of. You have crystals. You could have shells or bones or animal parts, beads and little charms like that. Money, intention metals such as this one. You can have your magical oils, needle, thread. The thread's there. I've only got a little piece, but you know what I mean. Needle and thread. And that is the basic skeleton of a charm bag.
So now that you know exactly what ingredients you need, then it is up to you to go about the acquisition of said ingredients in your own way. Of course, make sure that those ingredients align with your intention. So I suppose step one really is, what is your magical intention? And then step two is look at all the ingredients that you could possibly acquire that would align to your magical intention. Don't forget your homework on odd numbers. This is something that, like I said, you are going to want to know, okay? And I would love to hear some conversation about that in the Coven Facebook page. So that is it for today's video. Next week's video is all about petitions. Now, I do realize that I have covered petitions in the crystal preparation video, the crystal grid video, but it was very, very rushed, and I really do want to take my time with petitions because they are important, they are special, and they do need to be done in a specific way. So next week's video is all about petitions.